I landed on her planet by mistake. The alien queen said finally, HFY. Beginning. The alarms blared, and my shuttle's console lit up in a wild orchestra of flashing crimson. Impact warning. Navigation error. Atmospheric breach. The calm voice of the onboard AI repeated, far too calm for what was about to happen. I know. I snapped at the machine, though it wasn't at fault. My mission was simple, resupply a science station orbiting around the edge of the Vela Nebula. But one micro miscalculation in the slipstream jump, and suddenly, I was spiraling toward an unknown planet with no proper entry vector. The cockpit rattled like it wanted to shake me out. Heat washed across the glass as the shuttle plowed through atmosphere. Gravity pinned me against my seat until my vision blurred. I braced for fire, for the kind of terminal crash that scattered a man into dust across alien dirt. Instead, there was an awful grinding shriek, a burst of sparks, and then darkness. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't dead. That was new. My ribs ached, my left arm burned, and the shuttle looked like a flattened tin can. Outside, instead of the sterile blackness of space, there was green. Endless green. The airlock hissed weakly as I forced it open, and a wash of humid, floral air greeted me. I staggered out and collapsed onto soft ground covered in moss-like growths that glowed faintly in the twilight. Above me, enormous trees stretched skyward, their bark iridescent, leaves pulsing with bioluminescence. This isn't the charts, I muttered. It wasn't. I was a pilot in the United Terran Fleet. I'd memorized the star maps. This system wasn't supposed to have habitable worlds. And yet, here I was, breathing freely, alive. I pulled myself up, testing my injured arm, when I heard it. A low hum, not mechanical, not animal. Something deliberate harmonic, like voices blended into a single resonant chord. The forest parted. Figures emerged. They weren't human. Their forms were tall, elegant, skin shimmering with colors that shifted like liquid silver under starlight. Their eyes were luminous, like polished opals. And though I expected weapons, they carried staffs entwined with living vines that pulsed as if alive. One stepped forward, adorned in woven garments of radiant threads. A crown, not metallic, but made of a branching, crystalline material, rested on her brow. Her presence was undeniable. The queen. Her gaze pierced me, unblinking. Then, to my shock, her lips parted in words, perfectly intelligible in English, fell out. Finally, she said, middle. I froze, every instinct screaming at me to either salute or bolt. Finally, I echoed, sorry, Your Highness. I think there's been some mistake. I wasn't trying to. You came, she interrupted, her tone steady, almost reverent. The protector has come, as foretold. Protector? I glanced behind me, half expecting some other poor bastard to crawl out of the wreckage. Nope, just me, dirty, bleeding, and confused. Look, I'm just a pilot, I said carefully, raising my hands. My ship malfunctioned. I crash-landed. I don't even know what planet this is. The queen studied me, then gestured. Two of her attendants stepped forward, their movements unervingly fluid. They didn't touch me, yet, but stood close, watching with hawk-like intensity. You stand on Velara, the queen declared. The cradle of our people. The world hidden from the stars until the appointed hour. The hour marked by your coming. My brain scrambled. A hidden world? An appointed hour? This sounded like one of those cult prophecies you heard about on frontier outposts. Not the business of a starfaring queen. I'm telling you I wasn't appointed, I said. I was just unlucky. Her lips curved into a faint smile. You call it luck? We call it destiny. Before I could argue, the harmonic hum swelled again. From the Trilene, more of her people appeared. Hundreds, maybe thousands, gathering silently. Their eyes fixed on me, and in their gazes I saw hope, not suspicion, not fear. Hope. It unsettled me more than any hostility could have. They escorted me, not in chains, but with ceremonial reverence, into their city, if it could be called that. It wasn't steel towers or angular structures, but living architecture, trees shaped into vast halls, bridges of woven vines that spanned crystalline rivers, bioluminescent flora lighting the paths like lanterns. And at the heart, a palace grown from an enormous living tree, its trunk wide as a mountain, its canopy piercing the clouds. Inside, the queen led me to a chamber filled with glowing murals. They weren't painted. They seemed alive, shifting like constellations across the walls. They told a story, and though I didn't understand the script, the images spoke clearly. The darkness. A war. Their people enslaved, bound by chains of fire. And then, an outsider arriving from the stars. A figure with strange features. Unlike them. A human. Me. The resemblance wasn't exact, but the message was unmistakable. This is your prophecy, I whispered. The queen inclined her head. Our seer saw the day when one from beyond would fall from the sky and rise as protector. He would break the chains of the Scourge and lead us to freedom. Scourge. Her expression hardened. The Arvet dominion, raiders who claim worlds and strip them bare. For centuries, they have hunted us. We have Velara behind veils to escape their gaze. But prophecy said the veil would not last forever. The scourge will find us. And you think I'm supposed to stop them? I said incredulously. You are human, she said simply. That is enough. That threw me. Enough? Humans weren't special in the grand scheme. We were newcomers to galactic stage, scrappy but unremarkable compared to ancient civilizations. And yet, their eyes told a different story. I remembered the fleet's history. Every first contact file I'd studied said the same. Humanity had a reputation. Stubborn, relentless, impossible to conquer. Empires underestimated us, and somehow we always punched above our weight. Maybe that's what they saw in me. Days passed. My injuries were treated with alien salves that knit skin like weaving cloth. I was given quarters high within the living palace. And everywhere I went, people bowed. Children whispered. Warriors saluted. I kept insisting I wasn't their guy. But the queen, her name was Seralith, treated my denial with amused patience. You will see, she would say. When the time comes, you'll choose. And then the time came. The scourge arrived. It started with the sky. One night, the stars dimmed, blotted out by shadows. Warships, jagged black, bristling with weapons. The Dominion had found Velara. Panic spread through the city. Bells, resonant tones struck against living crystal, echoed through the forest. Warriors rushed to their stations, but I could see the fear etched into their faces. They weren't built for war. They were guardians, healers, singers of life. Against the Dominion, they'd be slaughtered. Seralith stood on the balcony, calm even as her people trembled. She turned to me. It is time, protector. My gut twisted. I wasn't a general. I wasn't a hero. I was just a guy who crashed his ship. But when I looked into the eyes of those people, their hope, their desperation, I knew if I didn't act, they'd die. Damn it. I muttered, fine, let's protect. Climax. The first wave hit hard. Dropships tore through the canopy, disgorging Dominion soldiers, armored, monstrous, wielding plasma rifles. I had no weapons but what they gave me, a staff entwined with vines that pulsed with living energy. It shouldn't have worked in my hands, but it did. When I swung it, energy crackled, hurling soldiers back. The people rallied behind me. I shouted orders, instincts honed from fleet training. Form ranks. Shield the civilians. Hit them from the flanks. It wasn't prophecy. It was tactics. And it worked. We pushed the first wave back. But more ships descended. Fire rained from the skies. Whole swathes of forest burned. Seralith fought beside me, her staff a beacon of searing light. Together, we cut a path toward a Dominion commander, a towering brute in black armor. You don't belong here, human, it snarled. This world is ours. Funny, I said, tightening my grip on the staff. I was just about to say the same thing. The battle was brutal. His strength against my stubbornness. His technology against the living power of Velara channeled through me. In the end, I did what humans always did best. I refused to quit. I jammed the staff through his armor, energy surging, until he collapsed in a heap of fire and sparks. The Dominion forces faltered, and the people of Velara, emboldened, roared as one. Together, we drove the invaders back, until their ships lifted and retreated into the stars. Velara was free, ending. When the fires died and the wounded were healed, the city gathered in the great plaza beneath the palace tree. The queen stood before her people, radiant despite the soot and scars of battle. She raised her voice, clear and ringing. Behold the protector, the prophecy fulfilled. Humanity has kept its promise to Velara. The crowd erupted in cheers. And me? I stood there, exhausted, leaning on the staff, feeling very much like an imposter. But as Seralith stepped beside me, placing a hand on my shoulder, I realized something. I hadn't just stumbled into their prophecy. I'd chosen to fight for them, to stand between them and annihilation. That was what made me protector, not destiny, but choice. Later, as the celebrations roared through the night, Seralith spoke to me in private. You came by mistake, she said softly, and yet you were always meant to come. I shook my head with a faint smile. You really believe that, don't you? She met my gaze, her eyes luminous. I do, because when the darkness came, you did not run. You stood. That is what it means to be protector. I had no answer, only the strange, warm certainty that maybe for once, humans truly were special. And as I looked out over the glowing city of Velara, I knew my crash wasn't an accident. Not anymore. It was the beginning.